Hello everyone, this is Black Coffee with Ice. Today we have a special guest, mental health advocate, pilot who brought 350 pounds of food to Northern Indigenous communities, social researcher, senior analyst, the list goes on. Ladies and gentlemen, Andi Sharma.
Hi.
Yay.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, what an intro, hey?
Right?
So how are you doing today?
I'm okay. Yeah, it's a bit chilly out, but...
Yeah. We have a few things we're going to talk about today. And before we dive in, I just want to say, here at Black Coffee with Ice, one of our main goals is to be an advocate for Indigenous people. And the reason for this is because I grew up in the inner city myself. I've been around a lot of great kids who had incredible potential, intelligence, abilities, but did not have the chance to flourish due to the lack of support systems. So my mission here with this podcast in my life is to not only be a physician, but to serve the community I'm from and to talk to different inner city schools to show that there is a way out. And I'm not going to mention any specific names, but many individuals I grew up with were great people and still have good hearts to this day. But the environment changed the people who they became. You're a product of your environment. And I remember saw a quote that says that you're most similar to the 5 people you spend the most time around. So, sorry about that mouthful, but when I saw your article in the news with respect to the 350 pounds of food to the Indigenous communities in the North, I knew one day, I don't know, this might sound weird, but I knew one day I had to interview you. So, now that you're finally across the table from me, explain to me and people listening what you did and what made you want to do what you did.
Yeah, sure. It's a long story. It starts when I was just a kid. So I've always wanted to fly since I was probably about 15, 16. My dad took me on a discovery flight. So you go up into the cockpit with a flight instructor and you just try it out. And I fell in love. So I started flying back then. And then a little while after that, he passed away. And so I stopped flying. I stopped showing up to life altogether. And I haven't been able to pick it back up until I was about, 33 now, so 31.
Oh, wow. You're 33.
Yeah.
Wow. You look young.
Thanks.
I'm jealous. I'm 22 and people probably think I look 33, man. This barber pushed up my hairline yesterday, I swear.
No, it looks great. It looks
No.
great. But yeah, so I finished it recently, and by the time it had rolled around that I could finish my pilot's license, I was already working in food security.
Oh,
so I thought, man, this is a great way to do two things that I love, right? Flying and food. And so I just wanted to, make a difference that way. I had a dear friend, an elder community activist from Poplar River First Nation. I've worked with her in the food security space before. So reached out to her, said, would there be any need or want or desire in the community to do this? Like, I was really worried about being like, some southerner do-gooder who just wanted to bring, community's got to want it. And she said, yeah, they would, people would love that. So worked with people in the community in Winnipeg. So surprisingly, things like Superstore was one of the major donors.
Oh, wow.
Which I wouldn't have expected. Winnipeg Harvest obviously came in.
Oh, okay.
And we got the 350 pounds for the payload.
That's
and
a lot of food.
Blew it up. Yeah. I mean, it's less than you'd think, but it was great. They had a community feast. I did it just before New Year's, after Christmas. Community feast, and everything that was left was distributed to like elders or single moms in the community.
Oh, wow. That's really amazing. And one of the main reasons why I was just so inspired when I saw that you did that was because, so many of these people that live in the northern communities, these remote communities, they don't really have a very good option with respect to food. I mean, if you only make a certain amount of money because of the lack of jobs that they have, and they have, a lot of children, when you're trying to feed a family and you say you have only, $60 for whatever, and it's $60 for a ham, or you can get 10 bags of chips, and even water's more expensive than pop. And, some of these communities don't even have running water. So, I mean, with all that into consideration, what else like motivated you to do that specifically, or did you just wake up one day and like felt like you really wanted to just do something amazing?
Well, the flight was sort of just I wanted to marry my two passions. The work that I do in food security comes from all of the things that you say. When I realized that this the legacy of colonialism like leaves these communities completely in the lurch, that's why I started doing that kind of work professionally. But yeah, the desire to fly it up was just sort of like, man, I really want to use this for some kind of good. Because you know what it comes down to really? I'm very privileged. I can afford to pay for a license for a pilot's license for myself, and not a lot of people can do that. And I really do believe it's a responsibility, a privilege to stand up against injustice wherever you can. Just try to use that privilege to do a little bit of good in the world. So that's kind of where it comes from.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Comes from a good place. But I remember this class that I took. One of the professors, I want her to come on here one day. I think I need to have like more credibility, whatever, one day. But her name's Karen Froman. She was an amazing professor. She's I think in her 30s or 40s, and she, had 2 kids. She like failed out of high school. She was like so far from where she wanted to be, but then one day it was like, you know what, screw it. I'm just gonna get my PhD in history. So she's now defending her PhD, and she like was just a regular girl, didn't graduate, had all these kids, and now she's literally defending her PhD. And what she told me is that when people from Europe came here, they had the agreement with the indigenous people to, share their land for education. But the European people made the Indian Act, which superseded everything, ignored all those treaties, and made residential schools. And we can go on with all the detriments that they have caused and the intergenerational trauma that people are still dealing with today. But one of the things that resonated with me, which what she said, was just, if you imagine Canada as a big circle, right? So she drew it on a whiteboard of like a circle, huge circle. And she said that, it was agreed to be 50-50, but instead she just was poking little dots on the whiteboard and said, imagine all the worst land for agriculture and resources. They just put them in all these remote spots, and instead of 50-50, now it's just dots everywhere. And people are still being manipulated with respect to, oil and all that. It's amazing to see that you did, because one day I did want to go to these communities. I remember like my friend Cole, right? He was on the podcast. He's an indigenous guy, ran like 5,000 miles or something from like Mexico to Canada for raising cancer. We were talking about it. It was so out of reach because we don't know how to fly or anything, but we're like, man, on this year off, imagine if we just went to all these like communities to, give food and all this stuff. And then, just what we were talking about, you made that a reality. So yeah, how did you set up the whole thing? Emailed the elder. And what was her name?
Her name's Sophia Rablauskas.
Sophia Rablauskas.
Actually, her son is a local comic here. He's amazing. His name's Paul Rablauskas. Anyway, so Sophia from Poplar River First Nation. Yeah, I think I called her up. Maybe it was even a Facebook message. But that was the first step. Just seeing if the community was interested, something, if it would be helpful, or how would it be received. She said it would be a really great idea. And then honestly, it took me no time at all. I reached out to Superstore, Winnipeg Harvest. Sobeys said no.
Sobeys. Damn, Sobeys.
Yeah, a few other places, and it came together in just a couple days.
Just a couple days.
Didn't take me any time at all to get that amount of food.
How was the flight up there?
It was good. It was so it's really good to fly in the wintertime because the air is denser and it's a smoother ride. And it was great. I've never flown that far away from home.
Was it just you?
I took someone with me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be a little scary, honestly.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It was cool. We flew over just a little piece of Lake Winnipeg, and that was really neat. I haven't done that before. Yeah, so I was surprised. It's cool because the community in Winnipeg, they were so ready, like chomping at the bit to help. Like all those big organizations were just like, yeah, on board. We totally want to do this. And I think that's, like I said, I think I posted this, it just, Winnipeg's got a heart of gold, and it just makes me proud.
Yeah, it's not as bad as everybody likes to claim it is.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty good place to live.
Yeah.
That's almost a perspective you got to look at. A lot of people are here, they're willing to volunteer, they're willing to do whatever it takes to help people. But a lot of people end up going to places like Africa and going to all these other countries when they don't even realize that there's third world conditions closer than you'd actually think.
Absolutely.
So, Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about with respect to the food to the indigenous communities? Or
Not really. I mean, I think we covered it.
yeah.
Yeah. I think I'll do another flight. I think I'm going to take water filters up to Garden Hill First Nation.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
damn, that's really cool, honestly. Wow. That's so cool. One day, I would love to help you out with that.
Well, when you get your physician's license, I'll take you up and we can do some flying doctor kind of thing.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
See, I'm thinking big time. Like, I'm not thinking little. I want to, like, eventually. And that, I kind of was getting in a negative mindset, just wanting everything to happen now. But, the long-term goal is to, have that much of an audience and that much of an impact where, we can get a lot of people together to help. So
yeah, that's really cool. And I love the ethos of this podcast about raising awareness. Like you said, a lot of people don't know about the conditions in the north, right in their own backyard. They don't know about the things that you were talking about, the isolation due to like broken treaties and that kind of thing. So it's really good work that you're doing to get that knowledge out there.
Yeah, no, that's one of the main things that I want to represent with this podcast, and I really appreciate you coming on. So now we'll talk about one of my other passions, and I'm also an advocate for mental health. But when I searched you, because I just did a little bit of research before you came here, I saw that you were representing Bell Let's Talk, and our generation is a lot more understanding with respect to mental illness, but we still live in a day and age where some jobs may not be okay with people needing a mental health day. I was talking to my friends about this. I work at Olive Garden, and if I called, hey, like, I'm feeling depressed, or I'm not in a good mood, I can't come to work, they would laugh because it's just not mainstream 100% yet. And so, for people who don't know you, but you came out with having an addiction, and I believe that's extremely commendable. One day when I am a little bit more credible and established, I do plan out to come out with my story. But, considering all things, I don't think it's a good move right now. But taking that into consideration, what made you decide to come out with your addiction?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
I had hid that part of my past for a really long time. So I've been clean for just over 6 years now. And I only started speaking about this just over 2 years ago. And I spent those 4 years trying to put as much distance between me and that woman that I used to be as possible. I didn't want my new job, my coworkers to know anything about that. I had new friends. I got rid of all of my old friends. You gotta cut out the people in your lives that are your triggers or whatever like that. So I had a whole bunch of new friends. I didn't want those people to know. And these are people that loved me, like genuinely loved the person that I had become. And I didn't want them to know anything about my past. So what made me start talking about it was I had a really good friend. Her name's Jennifer Reimer, and we lost touch. She was one of the casualties of that healing process I needed to go through. You got to cut out the people in your life that maybe aren't very good influences. So she was a casualty of that process. And years later, she reached out to me, and it was very cordial. It was nice, just how you doing? Things are good. Yeah, hope things are well with you. And eventually, through a brief conversation, it was Facebook messaging, she sort of said, yeah, we miss you. Like, you kind of fell off the face of the earth. You kind of felt like you abandoned us, left us, like you just left us. And there was truth to that. Absolutely. I had to do what I had to do to get myself right. And then a couple years later, she lost that fight. She overdosed and she died. So, I can't even talk about this without crying.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I don't mean to provoke you.
No, it's good. It's good. So when she died, her words really resonated with me, that I left them alone. I had just abandoned them. and they felt like, well, she felt like she just got left behind to fight on her own. And so I started speaking out because I didn't want anybody that was going through addiction to feel like they were alone. Yeah, so that's why I started speaking out.
And and just taking all that in consideration, what you were saying before, you are privileged. Like, you came from a good place, and that just goes to show that this can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter if you're poor, if you're rich, if you're black, if you're white. It doesn't matter if you're a girl or boy. Like, anybody is susceptible to suffering from addiction. I have a lot of friends who I had to cut out, and I have friends that are really close to me right now that it would be smart for me to cut them out, but it's hard because every time I'm with them, every time I go out, I have to, stay away from all that stuff. And, when I meet a new group of friends and we go out and they just have drinks and that's that, I feel just a sense of relief because I'm like, wow, finally I'm with people that don't have to do that.
Yeah.
I have multiple friends who OD'd on fentanyl, and most of them are back to doing what they've been doing, although they've almost had life-threatening situations, like times where they would be dead if they were not saved in an ample amount of time. It is a powerful thing. It is easy to fall back in that loop. Like, I remember, I want to get your opinion on this. I've had my own battles with addiction. Thought to myself that, that was me in the past. I'm no longer like that. And I remember I was talking to these ladies that I went to school with, and they were really smart. They took a lot of upper level psychology, and they said that once you're an addict for life. And it took me a long time to accept this. Like, I was arguing with them, and I was like, no. But now that I'm looking back on it, I accept it. Okay, I have a addictive personality. Everything I have to do is an extreme. I feel like the most beneficial thing is channel your addictions to healthy outlets.
100%.
Yeah. Do you agree with that? That you pretty much, once you're an addict, you're almost an addict for life, but it's up to you to make those healthy addictions.
Absolutely. And even to this day, if I have one too many drinks, I can easily see myself and I haven't had a line of Coke or done any meth for years and years and years, but even to this day, there's still that pull, and it's just because you're right. It's in my DNA. I just have that personality. It's just who I am. And you're right, finding healthy ways. I smoke a lot of weed now, because it's a good drug in my opinion, and it helps me. Well, I use it to manage anxiety and that kind of thing, but I think it takes the edge off of that need to. I don't know what it is, but that need to
do something. It makes me feel good. I know it can be negative for some people. I feel like there's two different types of stoners. Are you going to be productive and do it, or are you going to help it get through the day and help tackle tasks while you're high or whatever? I mean, well, with all things considered, what actually sparked your addiction in the first place, if you're okay with talking about it?
Yeah, you bet. So I started out, this is so dumb, and it's such a cliche story. I started doing meth because it was passed around, and I just did it. And this was back in the day, I was 16-ish, before, I didn't even, smartphones weren't around, didn't Google it, didn't know what it was. I was told that it was good for studying. And
Really?
and that's how it started. It was good for studying. I did really a lot of studying that year. But I never got really bad into it. It was, I didn't have a ton of access to it. So it was when it came around, usually about twice, maybe 3 times, once a week kind of, 3 or 4 times a month. And that went on for a little while. That wasn't what did me in. I had to come off of that. But that wasn't what, I don't want to say that meth is not, meth is really bad.
Yeah,
Kids, don't do it.
Don't do it. And yeah, kids need to know the compound itself is pretty analogous to, things such as Adderall or Concerta. And so, people taking a lot of Adderall recreationally is going to have a similar effect to methamphetamine. It sounds worse on surface level, but it's essentially biochemically, pharmacologically, it's the same. It's pretty similar to the same thing.
That's really interesting. I guess that's why somebody said it was good for studying.
It's just the same type of
family?
molecule. Yeah, same family molecule, yeah.
Interesting. So anyway, that wasn't even what did me in. So after high school, I only did it for a couple years. Didn't have access to it. That was fine. My dad died a year after high school. I was 19. 2005 anyway. And that spun me out completely. I didn't have the tools to cope with that. I was already hanging out with people that I probably shouldn't have been hanging out with. I hadn't even drank that much at that point. Like, I was just smoking weed. Like, that's all I ever needed. But then, I slipped into this crazy depression. Anxiety went through the roof. When my dad died, it just spun me out. I turned to drugs and alcohol to self-medicate, just to numb the pain and honestly blur the lines on the path. Like, because anyway. So that was the triggering event. But then you try it a couple times. Okay, this is just a fun recreational thing. And then, it moves from weekends to during the week. And then it's every day. And then it's an 8-ball every 2 days. And you're all of a sudden kicked out of your faculty at university, fired from a couple jobs, kicked out of your home. Wow. So you're homeless now. I was homeless for the better part of a year.
Oh, wow.
Hidden homeless, though. So I had friends that I would couch surf and, just from spot to spot for a while. And that's how it started out. And then it went on for like over 9 years, because the problem is that you think you're in control.
Yeah.
You really do. It's just fun. People should get off my case, all that kind of thing. So, yeah.
See, and I would not even expect that at all. Just like seeing you on surface and seeing where you are now. Man, we have similar stories. Like, I was homeless too, but not for a year. I was kind of closet homeless. I was living in my car, sleeping couch to couch.
Yeah, hidden homeless, they call it.
Yeah, I never heard of that before, but I just remember it's one of the most scary, terrifying. It was probably the worst time of my life. But I remember I saw this quote that really resonated with me by J.K. Rowling. I'm sure you've said it before. Rock bottom became the solid foundation for which I built my life. And, I think this is kind of relatable to certain situations. Like, whenever I see somebody who's, just broke up with a girlfriend, or they're in a really negative spot, I always just tell them to, if they're really sad, I'm like, just feel these emotions, be sad for a bit, and then let it motivate you to become better. I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason, but you have to find the reason for why it happened. Like, you can be an addict and you can, lose your faculty, like be homeless, lose your friends, and be in a negative spot. If you didn't look at it in a positive way, like, okay, that's as low as it can go. Now it can only go up from here. And now, like, make some big goals and slowly attack those goals. You can make anything really positive for you, but there's a catch to that. If you don't treat it in that way, it can be really detrimental. Like, not a lot of people come back from that. And that's why it's so inspiring. Like, I didn't even know this about you. I just saw the 350 pounds of food, and we seem to be more relatable than I thought. So, that just goes to show that people can come back from addiction, and people can make a negative thing extremely positive if they look at it in a positive way. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, too, we need help. I think the system is broken, especially for addicts. We're getting there with mental health in general. I think it's more acceptable to say I have anxiety or I have depression or whatever it is. Much less acceptable to say I'm a junkie, whatever.
Oh, yeah. No, it's true. Like, I have addicts, like, throughout my whole family, and that it kind of goes same with, like, ex-convicts, for example. Like, they don't have very many outlets. It's not like it's easy to get a job once you have that criminal record. With that all being said, what's your opinion just on young people having social media, and how the dopamine effect of getting likes and reinforcing that addiction at such a young age? Like, how do you think and once you're an addict, you're always an addict. How do you think that's going to translate to future generations?
That's such a good question. I mean, I have anxiety around social media just as myself. Like, I post something and I'll just stress about it for days and days. Even doing things like this, like. Oh
yeah, I was nervous. Armpits are sweaty.
Same.
That's why you took off the sweater.
But yeah, I wonder about that, especially as I have a little niece and nephew, and I see them just glued to their screen, and how that's remapping their neural connections. I don't even know, and I honestly think about how fortunate I was I didn't grow up with social media. I think that would have been hellish for junior high, high school.
Yeah.
It creates unrealistic standards, and life is hard enough as it is. And then for kids too, like in those formative years, I think we'll see a dramatic increase in instances of childhood anxiety and depression.
Definitely. Just because, it's just a way to reinforce bullying and things along those lines, and people are becoming so dependent on it that it is going to be scary. Like, I have no idea what the future holds, but I do know that with all this screen time, it's not going to have any positive effects. Like, just from having this podcast, and like, I was in a really negative spot this past couple of days, but I think that was just due to the fact that I was just like, I want everything now, and I'm not. Then I'd take a step back and just realize I got to be patient for it to come.
And that's something we all struggle with. I struggle with that to this day. Like, I have so many things that, like, I struggle with where I am in my life right now. I'm not happy with it. And, you laugh because it's, how could that be? But everyone goes through it. It's a never ending thing. I was just thinking about that today. I messaged my girlfriend. Saw a little meme, and it was just like, you don't have to be married by 30. You don't have to have a house by, all these things. 'Cause I don't have any of those things. And it's just like, but we have these standards that we hold ourselves to that are totally unrealistic. These timelines that are imposed on us, and it's just bullshit. So, patience.
It is. You just got to live the life that you want to live. And, it kind of reminds me of this one thing, like when I was just training, like I box as well, right?
Cool.
I love that because you can be training like 4 hours a day, and I can just channel everything into it. It's so amazing. But I remember I was like super nervous at the gym, like, because I would look like an idiot when I'm like punching with weights and stuff like that. But, one of my friends, Dylan, was just like, Justin, are you just going to let other people's opinions of you, like, looking like an idiot to them, really deter you from chasing your dreams? And it was like, hit me. I was like, no, can't let those people affect what I'm chasing and what I want to do. And that even goes to with this podcast. Sure, I get anxious. Sometimes I post it. I'm like, okay, like, who the hell is gonna see this? Like, out of everybody that I've met in my life, like, do I just have like a fan that just watches all of them, or does nobody watch them? It's scary, and it's very anxiety provoking, but that's just the nature of the beast.
It is, yeah. And it's just gonna keep getting worse and worse, I think.
So tell me, please, what is the Northern Healthy Foods Initiative?
So it's a program. It's a provincial program. The government in Manitoba. It's a granting program. So what I do basically, is anybody in the north, if you have an idea to localize your food system. So if it's growing a garden, building a greenhouse, hunting, fishing, trapping, even we recently gave grant support to an Indigenous community, Opaskwatt Cree Nation. They had this indoor LED system. They partnered with technology out of South Korea, I think it was, and they're growing food all year round in the north in these LED container things. Super cool, right?
Oh my God, that's really cool.
That's what NHFI is. We give out money to support that kind of thing.
Oh, damn. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. This program is unique. There's nothing like it across the country. No other provincial government has something like this, and it's not overly big. I think our whole budget is about $1 million, but it could go far in the north.
Oh, damn. I had no idea that's what it was. That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's NHFI.
Oh, well, thank you very much. So I guess we pretty much covered everything. Do you have any questions for me? No, I'm just kidding. No, but maybe you do.
You're into combat sports?
Yes.
Do you watch UFC?
I'm obsessed with UFC and boxing.
Who are your picks for Saturday?
Oh my!
Just the main card. I don't know the undercard.
Hey, that's cool that you know the main card. Definitely Max Holloway. I think he's gonna take it.
Yeah.
Did you watch him versus Brian Ortega?
Yeah.
Oh, that was bad. I was like, oh, each punch he was eating, I just felt bad. And then who's the next one? Oh, Adesanya, Gaslam. Oh, man.
What a matchup.
I know.
It's a tough call for me.
Yeah, who do you think?
So, okay. I bet against Stylebender last time. I definitely
You
didn't
thought
think
Silva was gonna be
I
there?
know he's an old man and he's aging out of it, but I'm a huge fan of Silva, and actually he was one of the first fights I ever saw when I started watching UFC. So it was kind of like just an emotional thing. But that fight was incredible. And okay, so this is how I think it's gonna. You can't.
Okay, wait, sorry, but before you finish, I'm just gonna say Adesanya would probably win, but I think Gastelum could knock him out.
Yep.
But anyways, go on. Sorry if I just stole your answer.
No, that's I think it would be great, and I think people will be like, what the fuck, Gastelum?" And you can't count him out. Gastelum, like he's okay. Stylebender's been on this meteoric rise, and that's undeniable, right? But like Gastelum's road to the belt, like it's just been steady and like undeniable, right? So I think it's going to be a great matchup. Yeah, I mean, he's taken down people like Bisping and Souza and
he beat Souza.
Yeah, and Johnny Hendricks, like he's
he's a tank. And
yeah,
the crazy thing about Gastelum is like I know like when you just look at body shape versus like some of the people in his division, like Paulo Costa, Romero, like those people are fucking animals, and he's just kind of like
just regular looking
bod,
dude.
Like 5'9". Yeah, whatever. Well, Max or Poirier.
Okay, so I think Max Holloway will take it. I want Dustin Poirier to win. That's sort of like where my heart is. But yeah, I think Holloway has just been on fire. If he shows up like the way he's been showing up lately, he'll take it. Definitely. Poirier's got this wicked left hand. If he could land one of those, it'll just, that could be it right there.
It's a crazy sport because like anything can just happen,
and that's why I love it. But you can't really. Holloway, doesn't he have the most landed significant strikes in all of UFC? I'm really excited for this card.
I'm really excited too. I closed that night, so I'm gonna try and get rid of my shift, or maybe I'll just like get rid of the close. But that will be a really good card.
An OSP. I'm gonna pick him, even though he's aging out. But
he's facing I think Russian guy or no?
Yeah, Ukrainian.
Okay.
Krylov or something like that.
Let's see the whole card. Oh shit. Okay, what's your opinion on TJ Dillashaw? Oh my god. Yeah. EPO.
Yeah.
So.
I couldn't even believe it because he plays this good guy, kind of like.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't even believe it. Couldn't believe it.
Because Cejudo was just saying, he's like, man, I shook this guy's hand. Like he shook my hand.
It's sketchy.
Oh yeah, for that to not even be tested though in the first place, like, which blows my mind. And USADA just so stupid because I was seeing in one of these comments, it's like they'll USADA will change the rules if like the person who won got popped for steroids, right? Like John Jones, for example. And then you compare that to TJ Dillashaw. Everybody's just against TJ Dillashaw right away and just like shut him out. But Jones has all these chances. And
okay, so I will say, and I'm not a defender of Jones. It's totally wrong. And twice, like, come on.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's at least a little bit of plausible deniability there, right? Like, okay, maybe it was dick pills from the gas station. Whatever, buddy. Sure, maybe it's twice. But TJ Dillashaw, like, straight up, like, undeniable. Like,
there's no dispute.
Yeah.
He took something that it literally like thickens up your blood so you can carry more oxygen. It gives you more red blood cells. Oh, that's so
crazy.
bad.
And I was always on the Dillashaw side of that Cody Garbrandt Dillashaw thing, because Garbrandt's a little shit.
he's so like emotional.
He's so emotional.
He doesn't even know how to like portray his like anger.
Because he's just a kid. I guess I gotta remember that too.
Yeah, maybe one day I'll have you over for a UFC stream. We'll talk some fight companion.
Yeah.
Totally. I actually want to do that one day.
Yeah, get super stoned, just straight Joe Rogan style.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if I get in a med, I'm definitely just gonna get my own place, so then I can have like a room for this and we can be loud and that'll be good.
Cool.
Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I hope we can do this again one day.
You bet.
All right, sounds good. That was a lot of fun, and everybody go check her out. All right, I guess that's it.